Hey guys, well, the long debate is over. The Renters Reform Bill has finally made its way through the House of Commons, but not without creating a little more controversy along the way. So in this video, I'll share an overview of the bill, the reactions it has provoked from both landlords and tenants, and look into what we might expect moving forward. But first, here's a recap. Well, this was the Conservative Party's golden ticket to try and attract the tenant vote, with the overall aim to increase tenant securities and rights, and has been rumbling on in the legal background now for 5 years. Now, a big part of this bill includes the removal of no-fault evictions, as well as the requirements for landlords to accommodate pets, a mandatory redress system for landlords, and a detailed national database of landlords. So, under the new legislation, all rental agreements will automatically be indefinite, and rent increases will be limited to once annually, subject to, of course, tenant appeal by a tribunal. At the core of this bill is its approach to eviction. Since 1989, landlords across England have had two paths to regain possession of their property. Number one, proving a tenant has breached the contract, such as via non-payment of rent, or number two, using the Section 21 eviction route at the end of a tenancy. Section 21s allow landlords to recover possession of a property at the end of a tenancy and have been used by many to remove antisocial or non-paying tenants using a court process known as accelerated possession, which can be much quicker but more importantly guarantees judgment by the court, unlike some other grounds for possession. So the bill's proposal to end no-fault evictions via Section 21 is intended to offer greater tenant stability, but has alarmed landlords who, obviously, foresee difficulties in managing problematic tenants. You see, a problem tenant isn't just someone who doesn't pay the rent on time, and in many cases it's not only an issue for the landlord. We deal with a lot of cases where antisocial behaviour by one tenant can cause misery for other housemates. So to make the eviction process more difficult for landlords can actually end up harming other tenants just as much. By removing Section 21, landlords and agents will be even more diligent in vetting potential tenants, potentially strengthening their income requirements and finding out a little more about their tenancy history, which may not be to the benefit of all applicants. As this has been labelled as the biggest shake-up in the UK rental landscape for 30 years, naturally it has been met with mixed reactions. While the legislation introduces measures to increase tenant security, these changes do pose new challenges for landlords in effectively managing their properties, particularly when it comes to forecasting income and managing void periods. But hey, this is here to stay, so landlords will need to adapt. Now, as I say, this has been a contentious bill, so much so that the legislation was passed with 301 proposed amendments and does include some concessions that benefit landlords. Notably, it now mandates a minimum 6-month stay for tenants before they can exercise their option to leave, and adds a specific provision for those offering student housing. This provision grants student landlords a new ground for possession, ensuring they can maintain the annual cycle of student tenants. This is a sensible amendment because it also benefits the incoming students directly, as they can be sure that they will have accommodation there for them when their university course starts in September. Prior to this amendment, there was no guarantee landlords would be able to offer this in case another student group decided not to move out. Although the bill is set to become law at the end of 2024, its major provisions like ending no-fault evictions will not take effect immediately. No, this aspect of the bill is on hold until the Lord Chancellor believes the court system is ready to handle the anticipated increase in disputes. That's because when there's no more no-fault and all landlords will have to prove a reason, that will result in a lot more cases coming to court. So what does this mean? As of today, the UK court system is woefully underprepared and under-resourced for its current workload, with huge amounts of backlogged possession claims to work through. So the rollout of new reform measures will be on hold until the Chancellor determines that the courts have improved significantly. Essentially, this implies that the government will not move forward with the repeal of Section 21 until they are satisfied that the necessary reforms in the justice system have been implemented. How long this takes is anyone's guess, which is what has angered a lot of tenant rights groups. With the potential for a Labour government to reverse the court's readiness clause, the future of this element of the bill does remain uncertain, because if Labour wins the upcoming election, they might fast forward the removal of Section 21, bringing an end to no-fault evictions by 2025, regardless of the court system's readiness. Reflecting on the government's delayed action on this commitment, it's clear that better preparation could have mitigated current frustrations. From a tenant's perspective, The promise of increased security is overshadowed by the delays, while landlords face continued uncertainty about eviction processes. Moreover, despite the current legal framework, few landlords would rely on no-fault evictions if they had confidence in a swift judicial process. This lack of trust in the system's efficiency is telling of deeper issues within the housing court structure, which remains overwhelmed. To sum up, while the Renters Reform Bill aims to balance tenant security with landlord rights, its implementation may fall short without further reforms. Basically, nobody seems particularly happy with what's come about. So, as we look towards the potential changes a new government might bring, both tenants and landlords must prepare for a period of adjustment and uncertainty. But for student landlords, at least, things are looking brighter than they were 18 months ago.